The world of Zelda is filled with amazing stories and grand adventures that really pull you in. Well, until you put the controller down because Mum was screaming at the top of her lungs for you to come down and have dinner. But right before that happens, you can really experience a magical world with some of the best game design found in the biz. Due to this, the Zelda games were quite popular as soon as they came out. But in the beginning, Nintendo was suffering from a bit of an identity crisis. In the very first title, they were free to do almost anything, and the game had a top-down view. However, in the game after that, it looked more like one of those old RPGs and used a side view. As you can imagine, people liked the first title more, and so many fans back then were eagerly waiting for the next Zelda game to see what Nintendo would do with the franchise. In the end, they created A Link to the Past, one of the best 2D Zelda games ever created by the company, and most people thought that this was kind of it. Well, until a new Zelda game was found, known as the Triforce Saga. A game that is known as an early version of A Link to the Past, made together with a different company. But was it even real? What is it seen in? In what ways was it different? And who helped Nintendo with this title? Well, today we will look into all of that and more. So, let's dive right in. But first, introducing my new store, Wily.gg, the place to buy your new games and get your hands on eShop cards for Nintendo as well as Xbox. And don't forget, use code Wily at checkout to save 10%. Now let's continue. Now this story starts in 1988, when development of a new NES Zelda began. But 1 year later, the project was brought to Nintendo's next console, the Super Famicom in Japan and the SNES in other regions. And thanks to this, as well as the new console, Nintendo was able to create an expansive world for Link to inhabit. And like Super Mario World, it went for a 16-bit art style, which allowed for a lot more detail to be added as well as more color. And just like every other game on the planet, due to time constraints, certain features were cut from the final release. But overall, Zelda fans got everything they wanted and more. It sold almost 5 million copies, which was a crazy high amount, and even today that is still an impressive number. However, years later, Zelda fans stumbled across something quite strange. They knew Nintendo created all kinds of test products before launch, and that certain elements were cut from A Link to the Past. And so, when in October 2005 an eBay listing for a beta cartridge known as the Triforce Saga appeared, featuring a label with the game's title, version number, year of production and copyright, people went nuts. The seller claimed to have tested the cartridge on an NES and even provided a picture of the game's supposed title screen. And according to this person, it was actually an early version of A Link to the Past when it was still in development for the NES instead of the SNES. Now, as news of this rare and possibly unheard of game spread throughout the Zelda community, it wasn't long before the eBay auction of the Triforce Saga attracted the attention of eager collectors and fans. And after a couple of days of intense fighting, the final bid for the cartridge reached a staggering $3,000. And the winner of the auction was a person known as Knight7. Now, a lot of people believe that this person had a connection to the Canadian game development company Silicon Knights. They are a game development company known for their work on titles such as Blood Omen Legacy of Kain and Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. These games were critically acclaimed, but were vastly different in tone and style from the Zelda series. So in my opinion, it seems unlikely that Silicon Knights, a company not known for working with Nintendo whatsoever, would be interested in purchasing a beta cartridge for a Zelda game. But still, someone using that name did buy the cartridge. However, sadly enough, we know very little about this strange title. We know what the title screen looks like, and to be honest, it reminds me a bit of Link's Awakening. However, that's all the info we have. Now, it could be real, because as I mentioned before in the beginning, Nintendo was working on a new NES Zelda title before switching switching to the new console. And there's also footage of it online. But it looks like all of this is from some sort of fan game, which was most likely made by a fan who came across the story of this beta cartridge. So sadly enough, it's kind of useless, but it does look cool. Now in the end, this eBay listing came and went, and people never heard of this game again, and so we have no clue what Night 7 did with this cartridge, or if it was even real. As you can imagine, all of this was strange, and the suspicious circumstances only served to further convince fans and skeptics alike that The Legend of Zelda: The Triforce Saga was actually a hoax, which was sadly enough true in the end, because in a statement to joystick.com, the CEO and founder of Silicon Knights, Dennis Diak, denied any involvement in the purchase and revealed that the cartridge was fake. And it was also uncovered that The Legend of Zelda: The Triforce Saga had never actually been in development, and that the game's supposed title was actually a complete fabrication. So what do we make of this? Sure, the company Silicon Knights said it was fake, but there is still a chance that a version of a third Zelda game for the NES is out there. And to be honest, why do we even trust a company that has nothing to do with Nintendo at all? Later on, they made games for Xbox, not Nintendo, so it might be that they know absolutely nothing. In the end, The Legend of Zelda: The Triforce Saga became the ultimate gaming mystery, with fans and collectors alike speculating on the authenticity of this rare cartridge. Some people argued that it was fake because Nintendo was never working on an NES Zelda game, while others say this is false. While others cite sources that are some sort of affiliated with Nintendo, who claim it was fake and couldn't be real if you look at the development history of A Link to the Past. Aside from that, the Hylia, a prominent Zelda fan site in the community, noted that the Nintendo Entertainment beta cartridges could not be played on a typical system, at least not without a peripheral such as a Game Genie. But it didn't end here, because it got even more confusing. Because later on, other beta cartridges of A Link to the Past also popped up online, but this time for the SNES, and it was partnered with a few other early release and beta cartridges of games such as Earthbound, Star Fox, and the NES version of Tetris. Now, Game Set Watch, an original gaming site, originally reported the listing. However, no further development of this story has been reported, and in the end, most people thought this was fake as well. But who knows, really? In the end, you can't really trust a seller like this, especially if they are selling for around $3,000 a piece. So to be honest, this hoax turned into a jumbled up mess. Personally, I think there's a good chance that a beta cartridge for A Link to the Past does exist, but all the ones that were sold on eBay are most likely fake and just a scam to make a bit of money. Well, actually a lot of money. So in the end, be careful and don't believe everything you see online. However, there are also rumors out there that are real, which I covered as well, so be sure to check out those videos. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. My voice is still a bit screwed. I had a cold. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I think if you listen carefully, you can. The voiceover was rough, my lord. It took 50% longer than it normally does because my voice is still meh. And now I'm gonna voice over 3 other videos. So this is gonna be fun. So if the next couple of videos on the channel sound off, then you know why. Alright, bye. I'm gonna torture myself more. Please subscribe. I'm doing all this effort. Come on, man.